Hey everybody, welcome to the Media Planet podcast number 3. Your host John. Jeff's not here this week, so I'm running solo this week on our podcast. Today, seeing how we're covering just everything in media, I'm going to go over the Dresden Files book series written by Jim Butcher. Jim Butcher actually lives up by Kansas City, Missouri, and being from Missouri, kind of a local author for me, does a fantasy series. It's more of a hopped up version of any of the Harry Potter and other stories. Your main protagonist of the story is Harry Dresden, who is Chicago's one and only wizard for hire. He actually has a ad in the yellow pages of the phone book. He doesn't do love potions or anything like that. He's just for finding things, just a little bit of everything. In the books, you start out pretty slow with the books. The first book was Stormfront, which was a good introduction book for the series. I think it's not a huge book by any means, but it's got plenty of detail. You kind of get a feel for the story and introduce you to a lot of the main characters that are recurring through. Right now, there's actually 15 books in the series, and he is actually writing book 16 right now called Peace Talks. I think he said there were supposed to be around 20 books in the series, and it would actually end with the final 3 books will be like an apocalyptic type trilogy. There'll be probably 18, 19, and 20. So you've got a couple of books yet before that gets into the finale of it. Anyway, like I said, your main protagonist is Harry Dresden. He's a wizard of the White Council. He does a little bit of everything. He helps people mostly. He actually even works as a consultant for the Chicago Police Department as they bill him a psychic, and he works with the Black Cat case files. They're the ones, special investigations. They're the ones that get the stuff that is just a little too freaky just to put down as it was a ghost or it was magic or this or that. They're kind of given the stuff that's swept under the rug. And in their turn, they have actually started using Harry as a consultant and have had good luck solving the crimes and stuff with him. And at this point in the books, when it starts out, I think Harry is in his late 20s, maybe early 30s, working as a private investigator. You kind of don't hear a whole lot about his history in this first book. That kind of develops more in the books, gets more detail as it goes. He was his mother died during childbirth. His father had an aneurysm when he was, I believe, 6, and he was in the foster care system for a long time. Then he was adopted by a man named Justin Dumore, who is a former wizard and actually a warden of the White Council. And wardens, I guess let's fill this in. It's in the first book here. They're like the police system for magic, for wizards and sorcerers and stuff. If you break any of the laws of magic, which they get into details later in the books, you're put on trial, and if you've broken the law of magic, usually you're put to death. In rare cases do they put you under the Doom of Damocles, which kind of a hyperactive probation, because if you break any of the laws, it's punishable by death instantly, which is beheading. Anyway, so he was adopted by Justin Dumore, who was one of these former wardens and wizard, and he works with Harry, training him for years. And Harry turns about 16, and in this whole time, he has adopted another young lady to train too, but he is actually dabbling in the dark arts and enthralls her, mind controls her, and they try to take him over, and he runs away, and Justin sends a demon after him. And will be a 16-year-old boy, just kind of learn his magic, still pretty powerful. He he manages to kill the demon, which is a huge deal. I guess you really can't kill a demon. It's more dispersed his body back, and went and dueled uh, his teacher and killed him with a fireball. Actually conjured up fire and actually burned the mansion down and killed him. But soon after that, he was caught and put on trial. And of course, he didn't know anything about the White Council or any of them, but they were insistent on putting him to death. But a lot of people said, no, we can't because he acted in self-defense, the whole trial thing. And that gets later on. I believe Summer Night, which is book 4, deals a lot more with that. And it's pretty good. I mean, you get to kind of see his whole deal, and he's sent to live with a guy in the Ozarks in Hog Hollow, Missouri, named Ebenezer McCoy, and he finishes out his training. Teaches him a lot. He learns to not only use his magic, but he does a lot of book learning too, and a lot of hard work, a lot of physical labor, just kind of work that mean streak and rebellious streak out of him that's been put into him from Justin D'Amour. Anyway, that's kind of the background of Harry Dresden and where he comes from. In Stormfront, which I'm going to warn you, there might be some spoilers. I'm trying to give away a whole lot of the details. Just kind of give you an idea of how the books go. The first book, Stormfront, anyway, you're kind of introduced to Harry. You're introduced to kind of how everything's going. The fact that he's on parole, and meet kind of not really his love interest, but becomes later his love interest is Susan Rodriguez, who works for the Arcane, which is kind of like a National Enquirer type. She's always after him for stories and stuff on magic, being Chicago's only wizard, so he gets that for himself. You're introduced to Lieutenant Karen Murphy, who is actually in charge of the Special Investigations Squad. She's worked her way up from a beat cop to get to this point. And that's pretty well the only main ones you really meet in here, except for Morgan, who is his warden. He's an older gentleman who is very mean. He does not like Harry at all, and he's always after him, waiting for him to break some kind of rule so he can behead him and be done with it, because he finds him guilty that he's a black wizard, even though he's not. They kind of touch on a few things here. In this particular one, you meet some mob bosses. There's some murders going on. They're actually used by magic, by a very powerful magic, where the people's hearts are exploding out of their chest. Somebody is going around killing them. And Harry's brought in, but the thing is, black magic's being used, so a lot of them think it's him. So he not only has to prove his innocence to everybody, but he also has to find the killer so he's not put to death. And keep his trust and everything with everybody he's working with, such as Karen Murphy, who he can't tell everything to. She doesn't know anything about the White Council or anything like that. And if it was to be brought out about that, then it would be a bad deal for all of them. Okay, you go through that book, and it's a really good introduction book. I think it's worth listening to. It's listen to or reading, whichever you prefer. They are read by James Marstons, who is very good at reading these books. He does a lot. He's got that right kind of voice for it, I think. And you're kind of introduced a little bit to the fantasy world. You've got things about ghosts or his third sight, which lets him see things the way they are. It's a good introduction book. And as you go on, you got second book's Full Moon. And of course, it's about werewolves. It's a really good one. It gives you a little bit more in depth. You're introduced to a few more characters, a few little things here and there. It's really good. And then the next book is Grave Peril. And in the third book, Grave Peril, you're actually introduced to a few more characters, some more main characters. Story picks up pretty good. You see a little bit more of the supernatural. You see more of, as they call it, the nether. Not the nether. The never never. I'm sorry. I'm getting too many things confused in my head here. which is the spirit world where fairies and everything live, and that starts getting into more of the courts and everything works. The next one, Summer Night, truly details. That's where things start turning for Harry, where things are starting to come into play that you're trying to figure out what's been going on. And of course, he's based in Chicago. In Chicago, the main story, the main idea of it being in Chicago is it's a main hub of travel, of course. So you have everything coming through there. Anyway, Summer Night, he's charged by one of the fairy queens to investigate a case, and he has no choice but to take it. He can't refuse it. And things start getting odd from there. Then the fifth book is Death Mask. It's pretty good. It deals with him going on to a duel to the death against some people, and you're kind of introduced in things. Things kind of start picking up in the books a little bit. It's a good, book 5 is really good. Number 6, Blood Rights. You learn lot more about Harry's past in Blood Rights than you have before. You're kind of introduced to some other characters that are a little bit more in depth. It's a pretty racy one because he's investigating working in a porn studio. So you got a few things in there. I mean, nothing too vulgar or anything, but of course, language is always in these books. You can't get away from that. Deadbeat is the next book. Not a whole lot to say about that one. That one you just kind of gotta go with that one because it kind of takes place after Blood Rights, which I don't know how to describe Deadbeat really that well. You just kind of have to read it. You're more or less dealing with what happens in Blood Rights directly affects what goes on in Deadbeat. Number 8, Proven Guilty, is a good one. He actually takes an apprentice by the end of that one to train to be a wizard, which is pretty huge for him, taking on a huge responsibility when he's not known for his responsible assets. So that makes it pretty interesting. See, book 9, White Knight. That deals with some more of the supernatural side. He's been training his apprentice, and things pick up pretty good in that book. You have a lot of action. You got kind of more insight on his family, too. You're learning a lot more. Number 10 is Small Favor, which that one deals more with the fairy courts and stuff. He has to deal with either summer or winter. I'm trying to remember which one exactly. But it's a pretty good book. Once that book's done, you get into Turncoat, which deals with inside the White Council of Wizardry. You're dealing with the inside if somebody's setting up everybody to die, or if you have a traitor amongst you, and of course everybody automatically assumes it's Harry. And he's dealing with that, and he's trying to help people, but he winds up helping a very unexpected person right off the start in that one. And it's kind of neat because he's got the apprentice still, and you kind of see the inner workings of the White Council, and I think that makes a huge difference. It gives it a lot more detail, and you get a lot more background with it, so you know where everybody's coming from. Changes is number 12, which has a huge twist ending. The book is full of twists and turns. It starts out big and just keeps going. It's one of the longer books of the series. Jim Butcher, the author, has said that he had all these others in between Changes and I think a Summer Night and Death Mask and all them. He felt that Changes should have probably taken place a couple of books before, but he doesn't regret anything he's done. But Changes is a really good book. It's a very emotional book too. You have the twist ending, and you learn some stuff about some people in that book that just will completely floor you. I mean, you would be highly surprised what you learn. And I will admit that in this book, it does have a lot of emotions with it, because if you follow the series up to that point and you read Changes, when you get to that last part of that book, it is huge. It's very huge. And then in a way, things are changing. That's the whole title of the book, is there's changes coming, and decisions have to be made. Deals are made, and deals that can't be unbroken. Uh, your next book in the series is Ghost Story, which is really good, which takes place immediately after Changes. I mean, as soon as you put down Changes, you can pick up Ghost Story, and you're right there, and it's really good. Number 14 is Cold Days, which I found, as long of a book as it is, I read it very quickly because I was so intrigued by it. Because 12, 13, and then you get to 14 on Cold Days, everything has come round from the last two books, and you just can't wait to dive into it. And I think that gives it a whole new, almost like a revitalized sense in the series. It's like, gosh, I'm tired of hearing about this or learning about this or seeing this. But you come up to Cold Days, and you get a whole new sense and a whole new, just everything new on. I mean, it's just crazy. And just as fast as I read the book is what impresses me. And then number 15 kind of continues after Cold Days. I think it takes place a few months after Cold Days from the events that happened. And Skin Game is really good. You actually introduce a little bit more mythology into it, such as the Hades, the Lord of the Underworld from Greek mythology. You're actually introduced to that character in this book. And it just has a lot of good stuff. And I found this book an easy read too. I mean, it looks intimidating. If you're not using a Kindle or anything, and you go to these places and you see these hardback books, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's a huge book. But I didn't find it as intimidating because I've been so wrapped up in the series that it was an easy read. And just, it's a good page turner. The action keeps coming, and you're trying to figure stuff out while he's trying to figure it out. It's awesome. And then, of course, the next book coming out, 16's Peace Talks, he's just now started writing on it. No word yet of when it'll be out. I'm sure it'll take him a while to read, to read over it, and plus, just to get it all wrote down, penned down, is going to be a hard one for him, I think. Anyway, I think it's going to be a good book. I'm curious to see what it means by Peace Talks. Because, like I said, once you read these series and you get up to it, and you hear this title, Peace Talks, well, what's getting Peace Talks? There's been so much stuff that has happened to get up to that point that you're just always intrigued by it. Now, in between these books, you'd have to look on Wikipedia, or you can look on his website, or the Dresden Files, Wikia, any of them. And there's a book called Side Jobs. And Side Jobs is pretty good because there's like little short stories that take place. There's one that takes place before Stormfront that kind of introduces you just a little bit more in depth. But then you have little short stories in between some of these books, which makes a good read because you kind of filling in some gaps like, oh, it just gives a whole new dynamic to the story. And when you have something like that, that makes a huge difference to it. So I highly recommend the series. And Jim Butcher being up there by Kansas City, I think he's Independence, I believe, which, just a local author, because I'm from we're in Southwest Missouri here, and that's just a local author making it big. He's made New York best time sellers. Dresden Files even had a small time it has sci-fi series for a season. It didn't take off very well, which they did a pretty good job of it. It just depends on your preference. If you're a big fan of the books, the show, maybe not so great, but if you separate the show from the books, it's wonderful. Just because of everything that goes on in the show is really good. And actually, I think what the whole deal was is they were going to make these books into movies. At the time, they were talking about doing Stormfront, but it was the same time the studio was doing Constantine with Keanu Reeves. Well, the studio went ahead and decided to do Constantine instead of Stormfront. Well, of course, we all know how Constantine turned out. Now it's a TV show, but it kind of flopped. It didn't turn out as well as what they expected. I can't say that Stormfront, with the Dresden Files could have done any better. But I'd still like to hope that if a major studio can't do these, I wouldn't mind seeing something like either a Starz or an HBO or Showtime or something to pick up the books, write scripts, and actually do the series. You know, 'cause they all follow an order. And of course, you know, we're looking at 20 books by the time we're done with it, which is huge. But I think it could be done. But I think it'd be one of those things that does need to be done on HBO or Showtime, Cinemax, or one of them that can kind of have full rights, especially with the graphicness of it and with the feelings you get. You know, like I said, there's, you know, when he's working in blood rights, he's working for a porn studio. Well, obviously there's nudity and stuff, and I don't think that's something you can put on regular TV, of course. But if somebody picked it up like HBO or Cinemax or something, it wouldn't shock people as much, I don't think. If you really push for the rating that these books need to be, you're looking at PG-13 or R rating. Uh, the R probably comes a little bit harder as you go on because you do have a lot of fantasy violence, but I think it could be done. And it would still be entertaining as long as they kept the story going the way it is. I know you can't always put all the details that you want to in them, but there's all kinds of options for this. Even without all the details, they could take a few things here and there out. I think you'd still have a good series. Now, whether or not it would be another series that would be a huge hit like some of the others that are out there right now, you know, you got Lord of the Rings or Star Wars for all that goes. You know, you got a huge saga there. You got the Harry Potter series, which came out with what 8 movies, I think, total, um, which is pretty good. But it would be hard to combine these. I mean, I see a couple of books here that could be combined to make one, but you would have a long theatrical run. I don't think studios are going to go for that anymore. You know, especially 20 books. I mean, that's 20 movies, and you gotta hope to pop one out every year because you don't want somebody to start on one. Like if somebody's in their 30s that's a fan of the series, if they start them now and they skip 2 or 3 years, well, they might not see it till they're done. You know, you're looking at 30 to 60 years to get them done. I don't think that's probable. That's why I think that if an HBO or Cinemax one of them picked it up, crank one out every 6 months or so, have one out, I think would work well. And if they can't get that to work, the books are always a good fallback. The audiobooks on them are awesome, like I said. The guy that reads them, he's very good. And I think it'd be worth every penny of it to see it come to life, but I think that'd be too hard to do. Well, I think that's all I got this time. Just kind of want to give my throw out here on some books and stuff, being with the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Highly recommend them. They're on the Kindle store. I think they're only like $5 a piece or something like that, $5 or $6 a piece for the book. Fairly cheap, and even the audiobooks aren't too expensive either if you're into that. Audible.com's a good one for those. Like I said, the Kindle. It's how I read mine, and I enjoy it. They're easy reads for me. Which I mean, I read stuff such as Stephen King, and also read the Michael Connelly, Harry Bosch novels, Dean Koontz, and all them too. So that's no problem either. But when you start getting into this and the series starts, it first kind of starts out slow, like okay, first couple books, like well, I'm not sure. Then you start getting into book 3, book 4, book 5, and you're immersed into the whole world of Harry Dresden. And you can't wait to see what happens next. And I guess that's where I'm stuck at now. Anyway, remember you can follow me at J Guitar Rock, which is spelled JGUITARROCK. That's on Twitter. Follow co-host who was not here today, Jeff Jarman 55 on Twitter. It's JEFFJARMAN 55. Check us out on YouTube under Media Planet Podcast. And I think that's all we're on right now until we get some more subscribers. And if anybody has any opinions or they want to let me know anything, just please comment, subscribe, tell us what you want to hear. Because we're always looking for something. Because we can do more than just books and games. You know, of course, we're going to get into some movies. We're looking at we got some ideas for some movies and some movie trivia to kind of do, just kind of give some ideas. We got video games to cover, especially this year's supposed to be huge for video games with the Xbox One, PS4, the releases that are coming out are supposed to be huge this year, so we got a lot to look forward to there. Uh, Movies, we're going to have a huge box office summer, I think, between you have Avengers and some of them others coming that people have been waiting for that sequel for the Avengers for a long time, and I think that we're going to see more theater goers this summer than we have the past couple of years. I think we've kind of lost a little bit our last couple of years with things, especially with the on demands and the bit comments and bit torrents and all of them that people get stuff from. I think we've kind of seen a decrease in the movies, but I think that with the Avengers and all them, we're going to see a bigger turnaround. Unfortunately, the Superman versus Batman Dawn of Justice, they pushed it back from 15 to 16, which is unfortunate. But of course, this year we got Episode 7, Force Awakens. Sorry, the new Star Wars movie, and that's gonna draw a lot of people in. There's a lot of people say that 4, 5, and 6 are the only movies that count, but you gotta give them a chance. 1, 2, 3, maybe not everybody's favorite, but I think it has its high points too. Uh, and I'm looking forward to see what J.J. Abrams does. Uh, I think he did well with the Star Trek movies, so I'm really looking forward to see what happens there. I guess that's all I have for this time. Till next time, I guess we'll see you guys around. Like I said, just hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on here, or subscribe. Just tell us, give us anything to talk about, and we will research it and find out what we can, because not everybody can always do it. Till next time.